Today's video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Now, it can't have escaped your notice that the kind of people who go on and on about the importance of free speech have a tendency to, how can I put this politely, not actually believe in it. In a world where so many powerful people want to control what you see and hear, a Surfshark VPN is a mightily useful thing to have. With its advanced encryption, you no longer need to worry about being spied upon while you're online, whether by governments, corporations, or even more nefarious types. You can get around censorship and region locking by simply changing your virtual location thanks to Surfshark's many international servers. And if this is all getting a bit heavy for you, you can also use it to watch other countries' streaming services. Click the link in the description below and enter the exclusive code Jago to get 83% off a 2-year plan, with 3 months extra free, and of course, a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not completely satisfied. Now for what we all came here for, bring on the trains. To quote the man Joey Grimaldi, here we are again. Having covered every renamed station on all the different underground lines, I thought I was done with this series. London has plenty of other rail networks, ranging from the trams to the Elizabeth line. But they're all relatively new. I mean, the Docklands Light Railway isn't even 40 yet. How many renamed stations could there be? But of course, I'd reckoned without one thing. Most of these new rail systems are rebuilt from old ones. So, here we go again, and we're going to start with what might be my favourite rail system in London, the DLR. East London, and the Docklands area in particular, had a formidable array of different railways. All the main line companies wanted to get to the docks because there was big money in goods trains. The docks themselves had a vast network of internal railways, and yet again I keep meaning to make a video on those. And many of East London's industrial premises had their own railways. Now, many of these old routes have been recycled into the DLR, the Elizabeth line, the Overground, even the odd footpath. This is a very roundabout way of saying that, in a way, the DLR is far older than it appears. Let's go west to east, at least to begin with. The westernmost terminus is Bank. The DLR arrived at Bank in 1991. But the station dates all the way back to 1898. Well, 1864 if you count Monument as part of Bank. But entirely arbitrarily, I'm not going to. Bank was originally a number of different stations built by different railways before it all got smooshed together. The Waterloo and City Railway called it City. The Central London Railway, very briefly, called it Cornhill. And the City and South London Railway went with Bank, although they originally had a nearby station called King William Street. The other western terminus is Tower Gateway. This sits approximately on the site of the original MINORIES terminus of the London and Blackwall Railway, very slightly to the south if we're going to be pedantic. If you're into model railways, there's quite a famous layout design by Cyril Freezer known as Minories, but it has nothing to do with this station beyond the name. I just thought I'd mention it. Minories closed in 1853. At Shadwell you can see a ruined station building. This was another London and Blackwall station which opened in 1840, but in 1900 was renamed Shadwell and St George's East. In 1941 it closed, and in 1987 a new Shadwell station opened here. Limehouse is another 1840 opening, originally under the name Stepney. In 1923 it became Stepney East, and in 1987 it became Limehouse. Possibly because of Limehouse Basin, but that's just speculation on my part. There had been another Limehouse a little way to the east, but all that remains of that is another disused station building. West India Docks Station sat ever so slightly to the east of the current West Ferry, so I'm going to count that as a name change, even if there is a gap from the closure of the old station in 1926 to the opening of the new one in 1987. There are several branches of the DLR, so let's head towards Canary Wharf at this point. The first station is West India Quay, which of course should not be confused with West India Docks. There's this weird thing with the DLR where its stations use the same name or similar names as older stations, but those names don't indicate the same stations. It's all very confusing. The DLR branch to Lewisham partially follows the route of the old MILLWALL extension railway. CROSSHARBOUR station sits on the site of a station called MILLWALL Docks. This lasted from 1871 to 1926. CROSSHARBOUR is one of the few DLR stations to be renamed during its time as a DLR station. It opened as CrossHarbour in 1987, then it was CrossHarbour and London Arena from 1994 until the demolition of the London Arena in 2006. Mudchute has, perhaps surprisingly, never been renamed. Island Gardens was the original eastern terminus of the DLR, and it was at the end of the old MILLWALL extension railway viaduct. However, the original MILLWALL extension railway terminus was North Greenwich and CUBITT Town. CUBITT Town was the name of the workers' town built here, but the station was otherwise a bit of a swizz. It's across the river from Greenwich and nowhere near the present North Greenwich Jubilee Line station. Since 1999, the DLR has ducked under the river and gone on to Lewisham. This extension hasn't really lasted long enough for any of the DLR stations to be renamed. It does connect with two much older stations, Greenwich and Lewisham, but perhaps surprisingly, they have never been renamed either. Now let's take the Beckton branch, dating from 1994. Blackwall Station sits right next to the site of the old London and Blackwall Railway's Poplar Station, which lasted, again, from 1840 to 1926. Canning Town has been rebuilt and resited a number of times since it first opened in 1847 under the Eastern Counties and Thames Junction Railway. Back then it was called Barking Road. It took the present name in 1873. The next change was at Custom House. There has been a Custom House station since 1855. In 2000, the XL Centre opened and the station is now known as Custom House for XL. Although most people just call it Custom House, and the Elizabeth line doesn't seem to use the XL bit. I must admit I'm sort of confused as to how official this name actually is. Beckton Park sits on the site of a station simply known as Central, that was built by the London and St Catherine's Dock Company in 1880 and was served by their internal railway. It closed in 1940. There are no more renamings here, so we'll head back to Canning Town and back along the Woolwich Arsenal branch. Oh, wait, no renamings along here either. So we'll go back to Poplar and head up to Stratford. All Saints started out as a North London railway station called Poplar East India Road, which existed from 1866 to 1944. Bow Church is just over the road from another abandoned North London station, which was simply called Bow. That was opened in 1850 and closed in 1944. Bow Church is another 1987 opening. Stratford has never been renamed, but let's switch on to the Stratford International branch. Stratford International has never been renamed either, but if we head in the other direction, we come to Stratford High Street. This opened in 1847 as Stratford Bridge, then in 1880 it became Stratford Market. In 1898 the Great Eastern Railway clarified, renaming the station to Stratford Market West Ham. Then in 1923 it went back to being Stratford Market. And in 1957 it was called nothing because British Railways closed it down. In 1991, the market after which the station had been named was closed down, so when the DLR station opened in 2011, it was under the present name. West Ham opened in 1901 and was called West Ham. But, as seems to happen a fair bit on the DLR's predecessors, they decided to be more specific in 1924, when it became West Ham Manor Road. But in 1969 it reverted. And now we're back at Canning Town, and that is the whole network. This video kind of highlights what I love about the DLR, the fact that it's simultaneously old and new. It's a network of remarkable complexity, taking in a heck of a lot of history. I don't think I'll ever get tired of it. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I'd like to thank my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon, You Are The XL, to my custom house. Thanks also to Surfshark for sponsoring today's video. Click on the link in the description below to take advantage of their very generous offer. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.